Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, a parallel investigation of contractors is now in progress at the Bureau of Internal Revenue in support of the President's crusade against ghost flood control projects. We check in on the latest with BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi Jr. Senator Ping Lacson bears an accreditation for sales scheme inside the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board. And the Monetary Board begins its policy meeting this morning, where Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona is poised to cut the key rate by 25 basis points to 5% for a third consecutive meeting. President Marcos has ordered a lifestyle check on all government officials. The lifestyle check will begin with the Department of Public Works and Highways, which has been roiled in recent weeks over substandard and ghost flood control projects.
Ipinag-utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ang pagkakaroon ng lifestyle check sa lahat ng mga opisyal sa gitna ng investigasyon patungkol sa maanumalyang flood control projects.
Castro added, no one will be spared by this lifestyle check set to be carried out by concerned agencies themselves. But Malacanang has asked the Ombudsman, the Commission on Audit, the Bureau of Internal Revenue and of Customs, as well as LGUs to conduct parallel probes. Marcos's cabinet secretaries welcomed the impending investigation into their wealth.
We are open and we welcome the yung lifestyle check.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do. Tama yun. For the entire government. I think it's very important.
Sa social media, wala ka nang pwede itago eh. So lahat lang naman yan pwede na makita sa social media.
For Senator Ping Lacson, the DPWH has become a playground of syndicates, adding that the discovery of ghost flood control projects in Bulacan is no isolated case. Lacson answered questions from colleagues a week after his privileged speech on flood control projects. He said ghost projects are not only seen in Bulacan, but also in places like Oriental Mindoro. Such revelations, he added, prove that mafia-like activities are occurring inside engineering offices in the country.
I don't know how high up yung syndicate, but it seems that the DPWH has become a playground of syndicates. Kasi nung sinabi nga ni Secretary Bonoan na isolated case ang first engineering district ng Bulacan, I did not believe him, Mr. President. Kasi mismong ang Presidente, pag nag-iikot sa iba't ibang lugar, may nakikitang ghost projects. I myself, my team, was able to validate this in Nauhan, in Sitio Dike, Barangay Apitong.
Lacson also bared an accreditation for sales scheme inside the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board. The senator alleged that PCAP, an attached agency of the DTI, has been seeking as low as 2 million pesos from private contractors to be accredited in bagging government projects. For Malacanang, Lacson's allegations will be part of an impartial probe sparing no one, not even the president's allies.
Kung yan po ang pananaw ni Senator Lacson, tandaan po natin, hindi naman po lahat ng tao sa DPWH ay maaaring involved. At katulad ng ginagawa po ng Pangulong Marcos Jr., pinapaimbestigahan niya po lahat para po malinis at maiayos kung anong po ang naging pagkakamali sa mga maanumalyang flood control projects. Walang sisinuhin, walang malapit sa puso, walang kaalyado, kung sino man ang involved dito, sasampahan ng kaso.
The Bureau of Customs will look into the imported luxury cars of the Vizcaya family. In an interview on Storycon, DOC Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno said they will determine whether the vehicles were properly imported and taxed. He noted, though, that a court order would be required since the items are located in private homes. Nepomuceno also acknowledged that the Bureau faces powerful groups and individuals behind smuggling activities. He said this makes investigations more challenging.
The dynamics will be different. We have to convince the court that we have enough reason for the judge to trust us in issuing the a search warrant that we would be needing to enter the premises. Of course, the Constitution protects the sanctity of homes. So we need resources to do our job. We need that kind of support. So that the hardest challenge is how to say no to corruption. And then you'll be up against people who have a lot of resources.
President Marcos's order for a sweeping crackdown on corruption in public works, the Bureau of Internal Revenue has begun a parallel investigation of contractors implicated in irregular flood control projects. With us now for more is Romeo June Lumagi Jr., Commissioner of the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Good to see you, Commissioner June. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Cathy, and thank you for guesting me in your show.
All right, so what's the progress so far in the fraud audit?
Well, we've already issued the memorandum. We've conducted the initial steps like issuance of the letters of authority that will start the formal audit process. And we've also coordinated or communicated with different government agencies already.
So how many are you currently investigating, sir, and which ones are being prioritized?
Right now, we've started with the 15 contractors that were declared. And the priority for us is those involved in ghost projects because that is clear fraud. That's why we start from there. But of course, it's just the beginning. We will audit all companies involved here, not just the 15, but it depends on where we will go or what we will see eventually as the audit progresses.
And you've made a description there of ghost and fraud. What common flags then or patterns are you noting among the contractors being audited? I mean, are you dealing with, say, fake receipts, underdeclared income, or even questionable luxury purchases, for instance, that the public should be aware of at this moment?
Well, that's right. Those three are generally the scheme, like underreporting the revenues, that's one. But since I think this is a government project that I'm not sure if they had that audacity to undeclare or underdeclare their revenues, considering that it's easily verifiable from government agencies how much their revenues are. So definitely in that aspect, we will coordinate with the government agency involved or all government agencies that we will get all the revenues of these contractors. And of course, number two is the expenses. They inflate their expenses, they make up expenses and use fake invoices. That's why we have already uncovered different or several contractors using ghost receipts. And again, ghost receipts are essentially issued by companies or ghost companies that are really just established for the purpose of issuing receipts, and they don't have legitimate business. They don't offer any product or service, and it's meant to support the fictitious expenses like these ghost projects, because ghost projects like the one that has been we've been discussing by or disclosed by DPWH as well. There's really no project to speak of. I mean, they did not do anything. They did not construct or they did not spend for anything in regard to that project. That's why they have to resort to the use of ghost receipts to make sure that their expenses are quote unquote documented. So we're checking that, and we're also checking their assets.
Exactly to your point, sir, establishing a paper trail is key, and oftentimes one will find that there may be none. You've talked about working with other agencies. Certainly you can't go it alone. So how is the BIR going to determine now whether a contractor has, as what you said, either underpaid taxes or maybe even engaged in tax evasion for these ghost projects? And which agencies are you going to be collaborating with to get the specific documentation needed for the fraud audit?
Well, first, we will coordinate with DPWH because that is the agency that really knows how much they paid or paid to these contractors. That's number one. Number two, we'll use also the asset method, like we will trace all their property. So we will coordinate with the Land Registration Authority. We will also coordinate with the Land Transportation Authority. For Land Transportation Office with respect to the vehicles. So we will trace all the assets of these companies and also the individuals or the shareholders, majority shareholders of these corporations, so that we will know if their assets match the income that they have been declaring.
And if a contractor is found to have evaded or underpaid taxes, what sanctions will the BIR impose?
First of all, the deficiency taxes will have to be paid. So that is the primary mission of the BIR, to collect taxes. So this fraud audit is the primary result that we want here, is that to make sure that they are paying the correct taxes. So we will assess them, the deficiency taxes, and we will collect these unpaid taxes. And number two, of course, since this involves fraud, we will file criminal cases for tax evasion against those individuals or corporate officers or directors that are found to be guilty of this tax evasion scheme.
Important to this parallel probe is the knowledge that there's also a probe happening at the executive and congressional level. So how are you planning to coordinate then your findings with the executive and legislative branches?
We will request for their reports because I think their investigation will also be extensive. They've been inviting resource people, resource persons that who give a lot of information that can be useful to our audit. So we will coordinate with them and get all documents that they have, and we are also monitoring. We've been there, and we will make sure that we listen to all these hearings.
Have you got a timeline for that?
Well, not really a specific timeline, but we will make sure that we will do it as quickly as possible. Again, we have to give the taxpayers, these contractors, due process as well before we can file any case or issue a deficiency tax assessment.
Beyond the fraud audit, the overall goal really is for the BIR audit to help curb the systemic abuses. So what parallel reforms, if you will, are going to be needed in areas like, say, procurement, accounting, or interagency coordination itself to strengthen prevention?
As far as BIR is concerned, our main concern is whether these corporations have been are diligent in paying their taxes. That's why in the procurement process, tax clearance is a requirement. And so we issue tax clearances when there's no delinquency of on their tax payments, or there's no criminal case filed against these corporations. But unfortunately, I think we've seen a lot of fake tax clearances being submitted in different procurement entities. So one way is that maybe they should confirm whether these tax clearances are authentic, because some agencies are requesting us for confirmation whether these tax clearances are authentic or not. And we've seen several already that are fake tax clearances.
And the luxury vehicles of the Discayas, are you also beginning a fraud audit probe there?
Yes, we've begun our audit on these companies and on them. So it's ongoing. We hope to conclude it as soon as possible.
Could it even be wider than what you know it to be, including maybe the Philippine Contractors Association board, as flagged by Senator Ping Lacson, and maybe even government officials, as the palace has just ordered a lifestyle check?
Well, it is possible. That's why, again, as I've said, we will start with the 15 contractors. In fact, we've started with several contractors already, even prior to this disclosures. But it depends on where we will proceed. That's why what we will see so it will depend on what we'll do next, depending on what we see on this initial probe.
Just as a final point, Commissioner, have you begun the lifestyle check at the BIR as ordered by the palace to all government agencies?
Actually, it's really ongoing, because that's the commitment to our president to make sure that as far as BIR is concerned, we are we are compliant with our integrity and professionalism of the BIR.
All right, wishing you all the best in the ongoing audit, and keep us up to speed, sir. Commissioner June Lumagi Jr. of the BIR.
Thank you,
You're
Cathy.
watching Money Talks. Coming up, the Bangko Sentral poised to cut the key rate this afternoon. And local automakers have expressed interest in the government's program to revitalize the automotive industry. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. The S&P 500 hit its 19th record of the year, with the U.S. equities also climbing on the back of NVIDIA's second quarter earnings. S&P 500 climbed Wednesday by 0.2% since the start of the year. The index is up by 10%. The Nasdaq rose by 0.2%, and the Dow advanced by 0.33%. The benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.238%. Gold prices increased for the second straight session at $3,404 per troy ounce. U.S. futures are a mixed bag as investors weigh on NVIDIA's quarterly earnings. The Dow virtually unchanged, S&P down by over 0.25%, and the Nasdaq declines by 0.4%. As for Asian markets, they're trading higher this Thursday. Both the South Korean Kospi and Japan's Nikkei 225 are up over 0.25% each. But Australia's ASX 200 is slightly higher by less than 0.1%. And a look at our own markets. PSEI opens today Thursday slightly higher by nearly 0.1% at 6,279. The stock market jumped by over 2% yesterday, Wednesday, as investors capitalized on bargains ahead of the BSP monetary meeting starting this morning. And the decision will be out at 2:30 p.m. on its social media. The broader all-shares index surged by 1.25%, with the sectoral gauges in the green except for holding firms. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today higher, 57.05 to the dollar. The peso hit a 3-week low yesterday, closing at 57.16 against the greenback. And the 10-year government bond yields ticked down to 5.993% from the previous close of 6.014%. Global Ferronickel Holdings announced that Chairman Joseph Sy has taken a voluntary leave of absence effective Wednesday, August 27th, to focus on personal legal matters. In a disclosure to the PSE, the board said the move safeguards the company and its stakeholders while maintaining leadership stability. To ensure continuity, F&I President Dante Bravo was elected as chairman, holding both roles subject to an annual review. The board also created a new vice chairman post to strengthen and independent oversight, naming lead independent director Jaime Del Rosario to the position. FNI stocks rose yesterday by over 5% at 130 per share. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will change the way it announces monetary policy decisions starting today, August 28. The BSP will now post its statement on its official website and X account at 2:30 p.m. Philippine Standard Time. This will be followed by a 3 p.m. press briefing with Governor Eli Remolona, live streamed on Facebook. The move aims to strengthen transparency, align with global practices like the U.S. Fed, and give markets real-time guidance. Meanwhile, today's Monetary Board meeting is expected to result in a 25 basis point rate cut, bringing the benchmark to 5%. Yesterday, Security Bank's Dino Aquino told this program the BSP chief has been ahead of the curve, taking a dovish, forward-looking stance. Meanwhile, Grow Capital Partners PJ Garcia noted that low valuations and prospects of rate cuts could create value opportunities for investors.
Yeah, actually, Governor Eli Remolona is really ahead of the curve versus, I don't want to sound biased, but compared to the Fed, he's really forward-looking on the policy moves. So we will likely continue his dovish stance. We will likely continue being more accommodative in the policy.
The recent announcements or pronouncements of the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell after the Jackson Hole meeting, and indications of our very own BSP Governor Eli Remolona saying that they will further do some cuts. We think our bet on Philippine sovereign bonds, especially in the long end, long duration bonds, sort of like paid off for this year. In terms of the valuations, it's trading at 9 times PE. So as an investor, I think that's really a value.
The Securities and Exchange Commission is making company registration faster. The agency expanded the list covered by its one-day registration facility from 33 to 81 industries. Through the day one submission and e-registration of companies, or OneSec online platform, businesses can secure a digital certificate of incorporation in as fast as 1 minute and 14 seconds. The expansion drove a 300% surge in registrations, with nearly 3,000 in July, up from over 1,000 in May. SEC Chair Francis Lim says this is part of reforms to streamline processes, cut fees, and encourage more entrepreneurs to formalize their businesses. The Budget Department has launched a new digital platform to monitor government infrastructure projects. Secretary Amena Pangandaman led the rollout of the Digital Information for Monitoring and Evaluation, or DIME project in Pasay City. The system uses satellites, drones, and geotagging to track project status and flag ghost projects or incomplete works. Citizens, civil society groups, and the media are encouraged to report irregularities and give feedback. DIME was first conceptualized in 2018 and launched this year following President Marcos's order to strengthen monitoring mechanisms. The Trade Department says local automakers are eyeing participation in revitalizing the automotive industry for competitiveness enhancement, or RACE program. Secretary Cristina Roque said companies like Francisco Motors, Toyota, and Mitsubishi have shown interest. To qualify for incentives, automakers must produce 100,000 units in 3 years and source parts locally to support homegrown industries. The government is fast-tracking the joint administrative order with the Trade, Finance, and Budget departments to launch the program. Maynilad has appointed Christopher Jaime de Chauco as its new director and COO effective September 1st. He will replace Randolph Estrellado, who is retiring after 19 years of service. Lechauco, who has been with Maynilad for 27 years, will also serve as president of the company's subsidiaries, Amayi Water Solutions and Boac Water Solutions Company. Maynilad also named Rudy Bailas as the new head of its customer experience and retail operations. Maynilad and Signal, the owner of this channel, are both part of the MVP group. And you're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, Alex Ayala bows out of the U.S. Open. Keep it here on One News. Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. The headlines from around the globe. In the U.S., 2 children are dead and 17 injured after a gunman fired dozens of rounds through the windows of the Annunciation Catholic Church before taking his own life. Minneapolis authorities say the suspect is a 23-year-old man armed with a rifle, shotgun, and pistol. Police have not yet identified the suspect's motive, but they are examining his writings and YouTube videos in search for answers. The FBI is treating the incident as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. In Iran, UN nuclear inspectors have stepped foot in the country for the first time since it suspended cooperation in June. That's when Tehran suffered attacks from Israel on its nuclear sites. Inspectors are supervising the changing of fuel at one of Iran's nuclear power plants. While resuming cooperation with Iran is difficult, International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi said it is not impossible. For its part, Iran's foreign ministry said lawmakers have not yet agreed on how to resume ties with the UN watchdog. And in South Korea, students will be banned from using cell phones and other digital devices inside classrooms starting March. The measure prohibiting cell phone use in schools has garnered bipartisan support. The move is expected to curb heavy social media use among the youth. One lawmaker lamented how kids stay up on Instagram until 3 a.m. According to Pew Research Center, 99% of South Koreans are glued on social media and 98% own a smartphone. And in sports, Alex Ayala's U.S. Open journey has come to an end. The 20-year-old Filipina bowed out in the second round after losing to Spain's Cristina Buxa. Ayala started strong, but Buxa used her experience to pull away and close the match. Despite the loss, Ayala has made history as the first Filipino to win a singles match in a Grand Slams Open era. And the University of Santo Tomas is all set to host season 88 of the UAAP this September. The Growling Tigers went shining in gold as a teaser for what fans can expect in the upcoming collegiate tournament. A brand new UAAP logo was also unveiled, carrying the theme Strength in Motion, Hope in Action. This year's opening will be extra special as it takes place right at the UST grounds. On September 20th, the men's basketball tournament tips off, featuring the host Growling Tigers and defending champions UP Fighting Maroons. Looks like it'll be an exciting one. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. Have a great day ahead.